The Friday Silence. It's Friday, 6 p.m. The work week is officially over. Outside your window, the city is beginning to hum with a restless, familiar energy. The streets are filling up with cars, and the restaurants are preparing their tables. For years, this was the hour the routine began. You'd rush home, wash the dust of the work week off your face, pick out your best shirt, and spend 20 minutes staring at a mirror, wondering if you looked approachable enough. You'd check your phone. 5 different dating apps. A dozen unread messages that felt less like conversations and more like job interviews. Your heart rate would climb, not with excitement, but with a quiet, persistent anxiety. But tonight, something is different. Tonight you didn't rush. You didn't shave. You didn't open the apps. Instead, you walked into your kitchen, poured a glass of water, and sat down on your couch. The apartment is completely silent. The only sound is the distant hum of the refrigerator. You pick up a book, or maybe you turn on your console, or perhaps you just stare at the ceiling for a few long, uninterrupted minutes. No expectations, no performance, no bill to pay. Society looks at a man in this room and calls him many things. They say he's lazy. They say he's bitter, that he's afraid of commitment, or that he simply couldn't compete in the modern mating market. But they are wrong. This silence isn't a sign of defeat. It is a conscious, calculated withdrawal. It is what we call quiet quitting in dating. Men are not running away because they are weak. They are opting out because they have run the numbers, and they've realized the game is no longer worth the price of admission. Before we dive into the mechanics of this silent recession, I want to ask you a favor. If you felt this shift in your own life, if you've chosen the quiet of your own space over the noise of a bad date, watch this video until the very end. This isn't a topic that makes sense in fragments. It requires the whole picture. And if you want to stand with a community of men who are done apologizing for protecting their peace, subscribe to the channel. Welcome back to Why We Fall. The price of the game. Let's talk about Ethan. Ethan is 29 years old. He lives in Austin, Texas, and works as a software engineer. He makes $95,000 a year. By every traditional metric, Ethan is a catch. He's healthy, he's financially stable, he has his own apartment, and he's spent his 20s building a life he can be proud of. And for 3 years, Ethan tried to share that life. He played the game exactly how he was told to play it. He paid for the premium subscriptions on the apps. He spent hours swiping, trying to find women who wanted more than just a free meal or an Instagram follower. He averaged 2 dates a week. If you do the math, that's about $400 a month. $400 of hard-earned money spent on cocktails, appetizers, and parking, all to sit across from a stranger and ask the same 5 questions. What do you do for fun? Where did you grow up? Do you have any siblings? Ethan told me that after a while, these dates began to feel like repetitive shifts at a second job. A job where he had to pay for the privilege of working, and where his boss could fire him at any moment with a single text. The crack started small. It was the girl who spent 40 minutes looking at her phone during a $70 dinner. It was the girl who laughed at his jokes, but never asked a single question about his life. It was the girl who, after 3 weeks of great conversation, suddenly vanished into thin air, only to reappear on his feed a week later with another man. But the final collapse happened on a warm Tuesday evening. Ethan had planned a date at a quiet, upscale bistro in downtown Austin. He had made the reservation a week in advance. He left work early, drove through the grueling I-35 traffic, paid $20 for parking, and walked to the restaurant. At 5:45 p.m., 15 minutes before they were set to meet, his phone buzzed. It was a text from her. "Hey, so sorry, but my work week has been crazy, and I'm just too exhausted. Let's reschedule sometime." No alternative day, no real apology, just a casual, low-effort cancellation sent to a man who had spent his day preparing to give her his time. Ethan sat on a bench outside the restaurant. He watched the couples walking past. He looked at his phone, then at his wallet. And in that moment, something broke. Or rather, something clicked. He didn't get angry. He didn't text her back asking for an explanation. He just felt empty. And then, a strange, overwhelming sense of relief. He realized that his time, his energy, and his dignity were worth more than this. He drove home, ordered a cheap pizza, and spent the night playing video games in his sweatpants. He didn't feel lonely. For the first time in 3 years, he felt at peace. Before he went to sleep, Ethan deleted every single dating app from his phone. He didn't do it out of anger. He did it because he had run an audit on his life, and he realized that the dating market was a business where he was the only investor taking all the risk, while the returns were constantly dropping. He chose to quiet quit, and he has never looked back. The invisible math of modern dating. To understand why men like Ethan are walking away, we have to look past the surface. This isn't just about a few bad dates or a canceled dinner. This is about a structural shift in how men value their own lives. Let's break down the psychology of the dating recession. Point 1. The asymmetry of modern dating. Let's start with a quote that many of you will find painfully familiar. "I feel like I'm interviewing for a job I have to pay to get." Let's decode what is actually happening here. In the modern dating landscape, the rules have become completely unbalanced. A man is expected to initiate the conversation, plan the date, pay for the experience, and drive the interaction forward. He bears 100% of the financial and emotional risk. Meanwhile, the expectation on the other side has dwindled to simply showing up. Why do men accept this? It comes down to a psychological concept called the scarcity mindset. From a young age, men are conditioned to believe that female attention and affection are rare, precious resources. We are told that if we don't work hard enough, pay enough, or tolerate enough bad behavior, we will end up alone. This fear of scarcity makes a man lower his standards. It forces him into a mental trap where he rationalizes poor treatment. He tells himself, "Well, she's just busy," or "dating is hard for everyone." But when you operate from a scarcity mindset, you yield your power. You allow the other person to set the terms of the engagement. You become a beggar in a market where you should be a partner. The actionable step here is simple but difficult. You must audit your attention. Attention is the most valuable currency a man possesses. Every time you text a woman who takes 10 hours to reply, every time you plan a date for someone who treats it like a chore, you are devaluing your currency. You must stop investing in assets that yield zero interest. If the investment isn't mutual, close the account. Point 2. The peace premium. Here is the second quote. "I didn't realize how loud my life was until I turned off the dating apps." Let's decode this. Think about the mental bandwidth dating occupies. The constant checking of notifications, the parsing of text messages for hidden meanings, the low-level anxiety of wondering if she likes you, the pressure to perform on the weekends. It is a constant, low-grade static noise in the background of your life. But when a man walks away, when he deletes the apps and stops chasing, he experiences something he hasn't felt in years: silence. In psychology, we talk about the difference between the dopamine loop and nervous system peace. Dating apps are designed to keep you hooked on dopamine. The swipe, the match, the temporary thrill of a flirty message, they are all tiny, addictive hits. But dopamine is a stressful chemical. It keeps your system in a state of constant search and alert. Solitude, on the other hand, allows your nervous system to return to a baseline of calm. When Ethan went home that Tuesday night, his brain stopped searching. He wasn't waiting for a text. He wasn't worrying about how he was perceived. He was just there. Men are realizing that this quiet baseline, what we call the peace premium, is far more valuable than the chaotic high of a woman's validation. They are choosing a calm, predictable life over a turbulent, dramatic relationship. The actionable step is to build your sanctuary. Your home should be a fortress of peace, not a waiting room for someone else's convenience. Learn to love the quiet hours. Use them to read, to train, to build a business, or simply to rest. Do not let the fear of loneliness drive you back into a burning house, just because you miss the warmth of the fire. Point 3. Reclaiming the frame. And finally, if I don't buy the ticket, I don't have to watch the show. Let's decode what this means. In every interaction, there is a concept known as frame control. The frame is the boundary of reality. It dictates whose rules, timeline, and values govern the relationship. For decades, the social frame dictated that a man must find a woman, marry her, buy a house, and provide for her lifestyle, regardless of how she treated him. If he complained, he was told to man up. If he was unhappy, he was told to work harder. But modern men are choosing to reclaim the frame. They are looking at the terms of the contract and saying, no. When a man quiet quits dating, he is establishing his own frame. He is saying, my peace, my financial stability, and my time are the foundation of my reality. If a relationship cannot respect or build upon that foundation, then the relationship does not get to exist. This is the ultimate shift from scarcity to abundance. It is the realization that you do not need to bend your life out of shape to fit into someone else's narrative. You are the author of your own story. The actionable step here is the no performance boundary. If a woman requires you to perform, to spend excessively, or to walk on eggshells just to keep her interested, you must step out of her frame. You do not argue. You do not try to convince her. You simply withdraw your presence and return to your own reality. Let her find someone else willing to play that role. You have other things to build. Before we move on to the practical steps you can take today, let's take a moment. If this analysis makes sense to you, if you've ever chosen the quiet of an empty room over the noise of a chaotic relationship, drop the word peace in the comments below. Let's show the other brothers watching this that they are not alone in their choice. The blueprint for recovery. Now that we understand the psychology behind why men are stepping away, let's talk about how to navigate this recession. If you find yourself exhausted by the dating market, you don't have to just complain about it. You can act. Here are 2 practical tools you can implement starting today. First, the expense audit. For the next 90 days, I want you to freeze all dating-related expenses. No Tinder Gold, no Bumble Premium, no first date cocktails, no dinners with strangers. Take the money you would have spent on these dates, whether it's $50 a week or $400 a month, and redirect it. Put it into a separate account. This is your peace fund. Use it to pay for a high-quality gym membership. Buy books that challenge your intellect. Take a professional certification course. Or invest it directly back into your savings. At the end of 90 days, look at that account. Look at the physical and mental assets you have built with that capital. Then ask yourself, was the fleeting chance of a first date spark worth more than the tangible progress I made in my own life? Almost every man who runs this audit realizes the same thing. The return on investment in yourself is always guaranteed. The return on investment in the modern dating market is a gamble. Second, the Café acid test. The next time you do decide to go on a date, set a strict boundary. Suggest a simple, low-pressure venue. A local coffee shop, a walk in a quiet park, or a casual spot for a tea in the afternoon. If she hesitates, if she makes a comment about the location being too cheap, or if she cancels because the date doesn't involve a 3-course dinner and high-end cocktails, pay attention. Here is the acid test question you must ask yourself. If she didn't look the way she looks, would I tolerate this demand? And more importantly, is she choosing to spend time with me, or is she choosing the luxury experience I am expected to pay for? A woman who is genuinely interested in who you are as a man will be happy to talk to you over a $2 coffee. She will value your presence more than the price tag of the venue. If she requires a high-ticket transaction just to give you her attention, She is not a partner. She is a consumer. And you are not a store. The freedom of the quiet man. Brother, if you are currently in a season of solitude, if you have deleted the apps and chosen the quiet of your own space, I want you to hear me clearly. You have not failed. Society will try to convince you that a man without a relationship is incomplete. They will tell you that your lack of a partner is a sign of your inadequacy. They want you to feel desperate, because desperate men are easy to control and easy to monetize. But there is a massive difference between isolation and intentional solitude. Isolation is when you hide because you are afraid of the world. Solitude is when you step back because you are protecting your sanity. It takes courage to look at a rigged game and decide to stop playing. It takes strength to choose the silence of an empty apartment over the loud, exhausting drama of a relationship that drains your soul. If you recently walked away from a long-term relationship, or if you are rebuilding your life after a divorce, remember this: you lost a relationship, not your worth. Your value as a man is not determined by a marriage license, a relationship status, or the validation of someone else. Your value is carved out of the discipline you show when no one is watching, the peace you maintain in your own home, and the goals you chase with single-minded focus. The dating recession is real, but it is not a tragedy for men. It is an opportunity. It is an invitation to take the energy, the money, and the attention you've been throwing into a broken system and bring it back home, to build your own life first. Subscribe to Why We Fall and join a growing community of men who are done sleepwalking through their own lives. We are reclaiming our peace, one day at a time. We'll see you in the next one, brother.